You're listening to The Rant.
I am not going to have time to screw any of my wives today.
You're listening
Please go away for the love of God!
to The Rant.
Are you listening to a word I'm saying?
The last thing I want to be remembered as is an annoying blabbermouth.
How do we laugh? We laugh politely. Ha ha ha.
You're listening to The Rant with David King.
Oh, boys! I'm back!
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Rant. I am your host, David King. It is good to be here with you on this Wednesday, March 25th. Thought we would do a fun podcast, something a little different. We don't generally do those sort of reaction, David King. You see all these react videos on social media, and you see them on good grief, this mic stand is the worst. If you bump it, it sounds like it just goes crazy. Anyway, this is a live podcast, everyone. So if there are mistakes, we can't hide it. It's just the way it is. Like my dog shaking in the background. It's fantastic. Anyway, so we don't normally do react videos on here. I don't generally play full clips of something. I might clip something from a show. I may let me turn it down. We might clip a few things and whatnot, but I thought it might be interesting. I am watching this for the first time with you, and we're going to listen to Dave Smith. If you don't know who Dave Smith is, he is a comedian, and he has a podcast. And what is that pod? I always shame on me for not having it preloaded, but the podcast is Part of the Problem. That's a good podcast. I listen to it frequently. I think he has some pretty good takes. I don't really agree with everything Dave Smith says. I think he has been in the past a little too harsh on Trump. He says some things where I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch, but I really like to listen to different groups of individuals. And the one thing is, since this war with Iran has started, the one thing I will say is I really enjoy listening to all different sides and all different opinions on this war, including people that I have listened to for the last 3 or 4 years who completely are on the opposite spectrum of this war than I am. And we're going to he's going to debate one of these people, which is going to be Adam from the Patrick Bet David podcast, which is it's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. I think it's I would say it is a conservative leaning podcast. There's no doubt about it, but it's a good business. It's a good, they kind of touch on everything. They don't really just talk about politics. It's a really great business a great podcast if you're a business owner. I think it's a good podcast if you're just into money markets or if you're into just more than just the news. You know what I mean? You get the current events. They do that. That's all awesome and whatnot, but they touch on so many other things. And I like it. It's a well-rounded podcast, and everybody has kind of their own opinions. It's not that they all disagree and it's just everybody shouting at each other. Although sometimes it can be that way. Vinny will shout out at Adam quite a bit, but it's a good one. And I like Adam. I actually really respect a lot of the things that Adam talks about on the podcast, especially when it comes to money. I think he really knows what he's talking about when it comes to that. but we have to keep in mind that Adam does have a bit of a bias when it comes to all of this. He is Jewish. Now, I don't think he is a practicing Jew. I think he's an ethnic Jew. But nonetheless, he is a Jewish, and so he has a little bit of a bias when it comes to this war, obviously. And that's okay. And that's the thing I think we need to talk about. It's like everybody's like, oh, he's a Jew. Of course he supports this war. And I'm like, well, yeah. And that makes sense because Israel is their country, right? It's the Jewish country. It is a very unique situation. It's like there's really no country in the world that really can say like that's this religion's country. But also the Jewish culture, the Jewish people are also very unique in that you can be Jewish, but not religious. You know what I mean? It's its own ethnicity. And so that makes this thing very interesting, but it also kind of brings a lot of nuance to this whole situation. You know, we talk about, everyone is kind of looking at this from, you know, the surface level, but this war in Iran and everything going on in the Middle East and with Israel, like this goes back thousands of years. Like this is biblical. You know, whether you believe in God or not, doesn't really matter. This is biblical from the beginning. This is all historical. Maybe that's the better word to use for those of you who aren't Christ followers or religious, but this is certainly all historical. It goes back thousands of years. It's been an ongoing battle, and it's likely to never end. It's going to probably continue until Christ comes back. So we can touch on that a little bit, but I thought it would be really fun to listen to Dave Smith and Adam debate each other on Piers Morgan's Uncensored show. Piers Morgan is somebody who I actually, it's crazy. You know, you would never, like 3 or 4 years ago, if you would have told me I would have been listening to Piers Morgan and being a fan of his, I'd probably been like, yeah, that's not happening. That's not true. There's no way I'm being a Piers Morgan fan. Now, again, do I agree with everything Piers Morgan says? Absolutely not. There's probably a lot of things that him and I would not agree on. I don't know off the top of my head what, but you know, it's one of those things is like, if you hear it, you can kind of comment on it, but he is very rational. And the one thing that I like about him is that he has allowed people of differing opinions all to come together and kind of just he gives them the opportunity to, you know, sell their opinion to the public. And I think that's good, right? We need that. Like we need a Dave Smith and an Adam to come together and debate this war. We need that. Why? Because you on the service level, you may say, well, that doesn't mean anything. They don't make policy. Who cares? Well, it does matter because this is all a way for us as humans, as people, as Americans to calibrate ourselves, because it's very easy for us to get very kind of tribal and one-sided. It's very easy for us to just fall in line with whatever our group is doing and not question it. To not go, is this the right thing to do? Is this a good idea? And I think we're seeing that in real time where there's these people who are just so cemented in the MAGA camp that they will absolutely in no way go against the grain or question it. And I think that's dangerous. I also think that's kind of, it's really bad. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for you. That's for sure. So of course, like, watch these things, listen, critically think about it. Like that's the biggest thing. Listen to what the opposition is saying and critically think about it. When this war kicked off, I was 100% against it from the rip. I was like, this is a horrible idea. And for the most part, I still feel the same exact way. And I made a point of going on to listening to podcasts where I knew that those folks were probably going to say something opposite of what I felt or what I thought. Because I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off on this. You know, maybe I am on the wrong side. Maybe I'm misaligned. Let me hear what they're saying and try to relate, understand it. And at the very least, if I don't agree, I know where they stand and why, and I can appreciate it, but agree to disagree, right? This is the rational thing to do. The shouting, the name calling, all this stuff that's going on in the zeitgeist of media is really just pathetic and stupid, and it doesn't help anybody. You should be able to have these debates. So without further ado, because this does appear to go on for a while, let's sit in and let's listen, and we'll pipe in and comment if I have anything to say, which I'm sure I will. I may want to reiterate a point, but yeah, let me see here. Let's make this a full screen so I don't accidentally hit a different button, and here we go.
Tsunami that greeted your last appearance on Uncensored, led by Ben Shapiro a little later. But first of all, this sort of quaint notion now being peddled by people in the mainstream media that the podcast world is irrelevant, no one's ever heard of any of the podcasters or we YouTubers or anything, and we should all just be ignored. I don't think that's true.
Pause. Yeah, so this has been coming up too, and I'm sure Dave will probably say something similar to what I'm saying, but there's this new kind of narrative now that like podcasters, YouTubers, they don't matter. They're irrelevant. Nobody cares. And everybody knows it's just absolutely ridiculous. The podcast scene, YouTube, all of these content creators, if you want to kind of dumb it down to that level, I hate content creator. I hate the word like, what is it? Influencer. Those are just tacky, like Gen Z phrases. I feel like I hate it. Don't like it. It's like, ugh. But there are people on here who are intelligent, who have really great opinions, and they offer a nuance to something that you're not going to get on the cable news network. And at the end of the day, what this is and what you're witnessing is simply a psyop. It's what it is. That there is something more malevolent going on a level that we can't see. And it could literally be as simple as the mainstream media is, getting together to kind of try to chip away at podcasters and YouTubers, because at the end of the day, they're taking away their viewers. Nobody's watching CNN and Fox News and MSNBC anymore. The only people who watch the mainstream news really now are boomers. Boomers and Gen Xers are the only ones. And that's a problem for them. They know that they're kind of a white dwarf. They're on their way out. And so it could be just them spreading those sort of narratives. They're very good at it. They're all very good at echoing each other and kind of getting a catchphrase to take off. And it could be that. It could be the FBI, the CIA holding up a psyop. We've seen this before. But we also know that the federal government is involved with the mainstream media. They use the media as a way to propagandize Americans. And they've done experiments. It's a proven fact. So this is what you're seeing. Nobody actually believes it. But anyway, I'm sorry. I wanted to talk about that. So let's keep rolling. Let's see what Dave says.
Oh, I mean, it's patently absurd on its face. I mean, again, I'm not trying to like overstate the influence that any one podcast or show has. But I mean, lots of people listen to shows. They don't necessarily agree completely with the host of that show. But again, to say, look, I mean, Pierce, if you look at the polls, what the polls tell us is that this is the most unpopular war in American history going into the war. And CNN is going to read you these North Korea numbers. Actually, in fact, I think it was better than Kim Jong-un did in his last election, 100% of MAGA. But what does that really mean? I mean, the truth is, Pierce, you kind of nailed it here in your opening, right? Even when Joe Biden was clearly senile and was forced to pull out of his reelection campaign, the majority of Biden supporters still supported him, and like there was still going to be like 40-something% of the electorate would have voted for Joe Biden. Now, that wasn't enough, though, and that's why they forced him out, because you need a coalition to carry you here. So this comes down to like how you're defining MAGA. If you want to say Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz and all these guys, they're not MAGA. Well, okay, but they were relevant enough for Donald Trump to go on all of their shows in the campaign. And the point is that the coalition that got Donald Trump elected in 24, that got him for the first time ever to win the popular vote, that coalition has been destroyed. And the final thing I'll say is this, Pierce, I made this prediction on my show the other day, but right now you kind of have these two, broadly speaking, camps, say Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, maybe people like me, who are saying the coalition has been destroyed. And then on the other side, you have people like you played Bacha, Ben Shapiro, who are saying, no, the coalition is fine. What we've learned is that Tucker Carlson doesn't matter. Give it a couple months, Pierce, and I promise you, everyone on that side will say the coalition has been destroyed and it's Tucker's fault. This is going to tank Donald Trump's presidency. We're already past the point of that. The Democrats are going to win the House and the Senate. It's going to be impeachments and subpoenas and investigations for the next 2 years. And I don't think anyone from this administration can win the presidential in 28 at this pace.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't disagree with a lot of what he's saying. I hate it. It breaks my heart to say that, yeah, I think the coalition is gone. I think the MAGA movement is certainly fractured. I do. And I think that part of that is Trump's fault in the fact that he kind of drew a line in the sand, right? He goes, you're either with me or you're against me. And that never really works too well, especially in politics. You should probably listen to everybody that, I mean, obviously you can't listen to everybody, but you shouldn't really, denigrate or like beat down on one side of the people that voted for you. You should try to be as neutral as you can possibly be as a leader. And he really did kind of isolate certain MAGA supporters and blah, blah, blah. And that's another thing too, is like, there are a lot of people who were MAGA who are no longer identifying as that. So if you poll them, they may not even, check the boxes, yes, I'm MAGA. So there's all this, there's a lot of things going on here. And I do think the coalition is certainly at the very least fractured, if not completely broken. I'm like I said, I still support Trump. I believe in him and I'm rooting for him. And I hope he is successful in the things that he campaigned on. And I am hopeful that he is successful in this war in Iran, despite the fact that he did not campaign on it. But I do have a feeling that we're going to suffer dearly in the primaries for this. All right, sorry about that. Let's keep going.
Adam, you're part of a very successful podcast. Patrick Bet-David's been a regular on this show, as have other members of your great team. And, I would say just from a personal, you can only judge it personally, I guess, but I've been on some of the biggest TV shows, mainstream TV shows you could think of, right? America's Got Talent for 6 years. Britain's Got Talent. I replaced Larry King at CNN. They aired my show 3 times a day in America and around the world, and so on and so on. And what's been fascinating to me in the last couple of years is I get more people come up to me in the street, wherever I am, whether it's New York, LA, London, Sydney, the Middle East, whatever. More people come up, and they're a bit younger than came up when I did any of those shows. And they're all coming up about my YouTube show, and they're all watching it avidly, and they're watching other shows like yours, like Dave's, Tucker, because they talked to me about all this. I had 2 guys last week from Denmark, 19 I think they were, stopped me in the street in West London. Passionate viewers of Uncensored, right? It was really fascinating to talk to them. So I just think this idea that people who operate away from mainstream media now, like you, like me, like Dave, like others, that we're kind of irrelevant and no one knows who we are, is completely contradicted by reality. I just see it in the streets. So I don't know whether it's self-preservation going on, that the mainstream media doesn't want to accept there's been a shift in power, but what do you think?
So we're talking about the mainstream media. So how much trust do you have in the mainstream media? But so let me answer that. So number one, Pierce, great to be with you. Dave, good to see you. It's been a little while, and thank you for dressing up, Dave. The question that you're asking is, are young people watching social media and they're watching YouTube? Obviously, duh. My mom still watches the news at 8 p.m. and if she misses it, that's it. She doesn't see it. She hasn't figured out how to get on social media. She still tries to ask me how to find me on YouTube and on Instagram. But yes, the 35 and under crowd is on social media. And I'll tell you an anecdote. I'm a registered independent. I'd never voted for Trump. And then I, had common sense and realized, do you vote for Trump, who might be brutish and an a-hole, or you vote for a weak, feckless, I wouldn't even call it leader like Kamala. And obviously the choice is pretty easy. But I would debate with my liberal friends, one that was very, very, very tight with the Clinton people, part of the Hillary campaign. And he noticed as I was starting to become more, let's just say, less Trump hating. This is in 2023, 2024, run up to the election. And then he goes, dude, I don't even know what happened to you. You're like full on MAGA now. I go, no, I just have common sense. I see what's going on the radical left. And it's so un-American to me. And he goes, yeah, you're just in your little YouTube world. I'm in the real world with the real politicians and the real polls. I got the real stuff going on. I go, hey, buddy, his name is John. I go, John, this is the real world now, guy. Yeah, well, we'll see. So obviously, we see what happens in the election. This is not the type of person that likes to apologize, right? Comes up to me and he goes, Adam, I was dead wrong. You're right. This is the new YouTube world. Congratulations on all your success, Pierce, and welcome to the YouTube world. It is what it is.
Okay, well, we're sort of in broad agreement there. Let's get to broad disagreement.
Yeah, I mean, he nailed it on the head. I mean, there's really nothing to say about it. I mean, this is the future, and the reason why it's working so well is because it's a sort of what do they call it? You get a true, the people who are good and the people who are like the people who are good at doing this are the ones that are successful. You know, back in the day with it was kind of like the movie business. You had to kind of hope and pray that someone would see your script that you wrote, you know, your film, you wrote the script for this movie. You have this movie you wrote, and you just hope to God that somebody finds you and approves it. And, you know, it was like fighting tooth and nail. And it was kind of the same way of becoming an actor or something. You just kind of hope that you get recognized or you can it almost felt like you had to get lucky. And there was a lot of gatekeeping. It's kind of what I'm saying. And it was like that in the media too. You know, you either had it or, you know, it was very difficult to get into this situation where you could have a voice, where people would listen to you. Because there is a level of gatekeeping, but it's also because they only have so many time slots at these news, you know, at the news organization. So you're only going to get what you're going to get. Same thing with radio. If you listen to the radio on your car, there's only so many time slots they can give to people. And they want the best talent, and it makes it very, very difficult. But the nice thing about YouTube and Instagram, and it is also to the detriment of it because you do get a lot of bad talent. But because we have the ability to choose and we can kind of watch it and judge for ourselves, the people who are really good at what they do and bring really great opinions and are entertaining, they rise to the top. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. And I think it's really helped us, especially in this age of information. We went through the information age. We're kind of in the age of disinformation, not to use a liberal kind of Democrat line, but it is kind of that way. You really have to research for yourself and do a little and be very good at critical thinking. But the information is there for you, you know, it's at your fingertips. You just have to go look for it. And I think it's really important in this time to have all these people being able to get in front of a camera or get behind a microphone and talk about it. Whether they bring a great point or not, it's just like, this is good for us. It's more variety. It's harder for it. I think it's hard. I know the feds don't like it because they don't control the narrative. It's harder to control a narrative. I mean, look at this war. This war is a great example of that. You can't control the narrative. We are so split on this. And there's no media outlet that can sit there and hold you firm and be like, this is where you belong, right? Cement yourself in this encampment and stand firm, and we'll keep feeding you what you need to say. And it's almost hilarious because when you talk to people on social media, you know when they've only watched Fox News because they're literally parroting whatever it is that they're saying. So, but anyway, let's continue.
I suspect, which is the way this war is playing out. I mean, Dave, I've really struggled to work out the upside for Donald Trump from the start of this. Doing this so close to the midterms, doing exactly what he said he wouldn't do, which is he was going to stop, attacking Middle Eastern countries. It was all going to be America first, a premium on sorting out American problems in America. And then suddenly he launches a war on one of the biggest countries in the Middle East, certainly one of the best armed. And all hell has broken loose, not least to the global economy, which is inevitably going to have, and already is having, a very detrimental effect on living standards for average Americans. If I'm an American that voted for Trump, I'm like, I don't get this. You know, I might in a poll say, I get it, but I don't think I really get it.
Yeah, and then you also have to consider there, Pierce, right? Like there's a sizable percentage of people who support Donald Trump, who approve of the job broadly that he's been doing, who maybe, look, we're 3 weeks or whatever into this, go, all right, I'll kind of give him a chance. We'll see. But if this doesn't turn into any type of win, and if it turns into a clear disaster, which it already seems to be, that's only going to hurt him more and more and more. You know, I think, look, Pierce, it's despite the fact that it is not in my incentives in some way as like a political commentator, like I hope this whole thing just works out great. And then I know that all the people who don't like me will say, ha ha, you were warning that this would be a disaster. I hope that I would much rather take that deal and live in that. But Piers, the other element there is that, right, we had the 12-day war in the summer. And I've certainly heard, I heard at the time, some on debates that we did on your show and others. And I've heard nothing but since then on social media that, oh, you guys were so stupid. You were warning about exactly what we're seeing right now, which is what all of us were warning about who are critics of the 12-day war. And Iran didn't do that. And they were like, look, we got away with it. One and done. No Americans dead. And that's it. We don't have to do anything else. They spent the following 6 months bragging about how the nuclear threat had been totally obliterated. Now we find ourselves, Pierce, back in this same situation. And as I mentioned last time on your show, the big picture here is that clearly the calculation changed for Iran. They no longer feel that it's in their incentive for self-preservation to not strike back and kill Americans or not do maximal damage. And now, clearly, with a younger, more radical Ayatollah who has not promised to not build nuclear weapons, they've made the calculation that actually they can't not give us a bloody nose, that they have to really make this cost us. Otherwise, we'll be back in another few months doing it again. And of course, at the beginning of this war, Donald Trump said this was a full regime change war and called for the people to rise up and overthrow their government. And the people did rise up, Pierce, in support of their martyr Ayatollah and in support of this regime. I know you saw some of those aerial shots. There must have been hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets in Tehran, in the most liberal part of the country, supporting the regime. So I'm sorry, at this point, this just looks like a catastrophe. And the best we can hope for at this point is that it only ends up killing like 10,000 people, and it only ends up costing tens of billions of dollars rather than the 200 that Secretary Hegseth has asked for. And this all relies on two major factors. Think about this, Pierce. It's not just that Donald Trump has to call it quit and declare victory or whatever, but then we got two other entities that are majorly involved in this war, Iran and Israel. Now, we know at this point, Iran is saying they're vowing not to stop. They talk a lot of bluster. Who knows? Maybe they will. But Israel, Pierce, we all know they want the regime change here. In the 12-day war and in this war already, they've hit targets after Trump has clearly asked them not to. Who's to say they don't continue doing that? And it begs a real question of how we get out of this quagmire. Yeah, 3 weeks in, we're already there.
Right. So, Adam, you've had a little spat with Dave on.
Yeah. So, I mean, that good point's made there. I've said it. Nobody, we don't agree with it. This is an issue. The biggest issue I have with this war is how you win it. And that's kind of really my issue with every war is how do you win it? It was my issue with Israel attacking Gaza after after the terror attack on October 7th. I never said that Israel didn't have a right to defend themselves. In fact, I believe that they do. But Bibi Netanyahu came on and said, we will not quit until Hamas is removed from the face of the earth. And I said, whoa, that's very interesting that you say that, because how do you do that? That's the issue. How do you remove an ideology from the face of the earth? It's almost impossible. I don't think you can. You can certainly cripple it. You can kind of stall it out a bit, but to say that we're going to remove this ideology from earth, that's a tough one. It's not to say you couldn't. I just would know how do you do that? And here we are again with this situation in Iran. And what makes Iran a little more complicated is it's just so diverse. There's so many different factions of people that live in this very large country in the Middle East. And I don't know how you get this to end up in a way that's going to be positive for the U.S. But yeah, let's hear what Adam has to say.
Social media, when he called it an illegal war of aggression on X, you said, come on, guy, read the room. Dave responded, let's not pretend you read, Adam. To which you replied, I'm able to read scoreboards. You are losing big time. Mm-hmm. Do you still feel that? I mean, do you still feel that? Because I would argue that the scoreboards militarily absolutely would show that the United States and Israeli combined forces have inflicted enormous damage on Iran's military capability. I think that's inarguable. However, what I don't think has been properly factored in by the Americans and Israelis is the ability of Iran to wage an economic war in parallel to a military war. And that by controlling the Straits of Hormuz and by attacking, as they have done, their neighboring Gulf states, both oil refineries and tourist hotspots and so on, they've managed to freak everybody out and they've freaked the global markets. And this is incredibly damaging to Donald Trump, because every day that Straits of Hormuz is shut, then you will see the impact for the next few weeks and months coming through the US economy and the global economy, but the US economy. You know, when fertilizer, when the impact of that being stopped comes through in a couple of months' time, it takes a while to cut through to the actual people of America. But it will, and when it does, it's going to be very damaging. Do you not think that the longer this goes on, the more of a miscalculation has been made here?
Look, I'm not the Trump is the all B MAGA guy. I'm the guy that was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about this Trump guy. You know what? Oh, I got the fake news. Oh, Russia. Oh, it turns out, yeah, you know, he's way better than the other side. So I had to use logic and a measured approach to get me to the point where I'm like, he's the guy. So I'll ask you another question. Let's say Trump wasn't here. What's Kamala doing?
Oh, no,
so
everything
don't
get
in
me
politics
wrong.
is binary.
I think Kamala Harris would have been a terrible president. I thought Joe Biden was a terrible president. And I've always said with Trump, I think I find myself agreeing with.
What does Kamala have to do with this? Because how do we even know that? I mean, I get it. I feel like this is a deflection. You know, this is classic sort of, well, you know, I know what you're saying about Trump, but what about Kamala? It's like nobody cares. Kamala would have been a horrible president, but who's to say that she would even have started this war, right? She might have been completely soft on Iran and didn't do anything. We don't really know, but I hate it's such a weird way to debate, because you're now not really attacking the substance of what you were just talking about. You're now deflecting, and you're kind of doing that whataboutism, and it's never good to start your debate off with whataboutism.
Some of the things he does and disagreeing with others, which I think is the right way to deal with Trump. I think if you just judge him on what comes out of his mouth...
Well, that's just like with anything, Piers. You're not going to agree with everybody and disagree with that. Right.
Yeah, so, okay. and look, when I came on the PBD podcast, I loved it, because we disagree about stuff, and you guys come on, we disagree, we agree. We never fall out over it, and nor should anybody, right? But on this specific call about Iran, I did say on day one, I think this is a massive gamble, and I don't understand the timing, and I think the capacity for this to go badly wrong is very high. The longer it has gone on, because Trump originally was like, this is over in days, then it's over in a couple of weeks, then everything started changing, then the regime change he said was going to happen with people rising up. None of that has happened. There are lots of reasons for it. I think the reason we saw so many pro-regime people hit the streets was they were not going to get killed doing it. We saw in January when people protested against the regime, a lot got killed. And obviously there are bombs flying around all over the cities of Iran, which will also put people off, I guess. So there are lots of reasons, I guess, why people are protesting or not protesting in certain ways. But to me...
Not to cut him off, but I think that's an excellent point that Piers Morgan just raised, which is why hasn't... If so many people in Iran wanted this regime out, I mean, now's the time. Now's the time to fight back. Well, they don't have weapons. Well, I understand that it's not going to be easy. And I understand that there's going to be a large death toll. But this has been my biggest beef with American intervention with any of these situations. Regime changes, we get involved with other countries, Somalia, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Iran. When we get involved with these other countries, it's like we treat them as if they're like us, right? oh, they'll go and fight a revolution like we did and they'll win. Like, first of all, no, revolutions are nearly impossible to win. And they're often very deadly. They end up turning into like a civil war, and one side gets completely brutally destroyed and the other side takes over. And so that's why a lot of people don't engage in it. That's why they're afraid to engage in it. And so this idea that like we have this weird sort of idea that, oh, everybody's going to be like us and want to fight back. They're going to rise up like Americans did in 1775. No, they're not. More than likely they're not. And if they do, it's going to be a quagmire. It is going to be a complete mess that's going to break down into something else. And you see it. There's nobody stepping up in Iran at all. And, at all. And Trump is saying, well, we're talking to people. Or who? I don't know. You don't know. He's like, I hope they're the right people. Wow. Love to hear that. So I think it's a really good point. He's like, nobody's really stepped up to fight back right now. And, like he said, some good points. Maybe there are some reasons why, because bombs are flying and everything else. But nonetheless, like, if you want to escape a brutally tyrannical regime, the only thing you can do is fight back. And you're going to have to put all the chips on the table. And yeah, oh, Dave, it's easy for you to say you don't have to do it. It's like, no, I don't. But that's what it takes. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. It doesn't matter if I'm fighting in a civil war right now or not. It's like, that's just the reality of it. If you want to overcome tyranny, you have to fight it. And that does involve risking everything. And nobody so far has done that. And nobody's ever done that. Period. It's always us fighting it for them, which I have opinions. I'm like, if we're going to go out there and invest all this and fight these wars, then we should just take the country over and make it our own. Period. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm rambling. Let's get back to it. I apologize. Here, let me just back it up a hair. All right. Whoop.
To me, the justification for this war has changed so many times. It's made me think, I don't think Donald Trump
100%
has any clear idea of what victory looks like. Do you? I mean, if the regime remains intact and they keep their enriched uranium, for example, and they maintain control of the Strait.
Even if the regime doesn't keep their uranium, but they stay intact, that is not a win for the United States. Nothing's changed. You just swapped Ayatollah leaders.
Of Hormuz. Is that victory?
No.
Well, look, this was not an easy decision. You think, these guys have been in power 47 years. Everybody in our microwave hustle society wants this done in the next 4 to 7 weeks. It's going to take some time. And we've already, I was talking to a good Navy SEAL, buddy of mine, Navy SEAL. He said, dude, we've taken out 80% of their military capacity. Not bad in less than a month. So let the guy cook a little bit. So you also talk about, Dave, that, oh yeah, they had people out there pro-regime. Yeah, nobody's denying that 10 to maybe 20% max of the country is pro-regime. But what about the 80% of the country? That's like if Dave had a comedy show, there was 100 people that magically showed up to Dave's comedy show. Oh my God, he has so many fans. Dude, there's 100,000 people outside that didn't go to the show. I'm not being like brutish or sarcastic, but just you're taking a small sample size and extrapolating that for the entire country. We all know
just to be clear,
who this regime is.
Oh, hang on, Adam.
We all know that this is a terrorist regime.
Just to be technically correct on that argument you're making, if 100 people turned up to watch Dave's show, then technically over 8 billion chose not to.
Correct, and that's pretty uniform at this point.
Jokes aside, I don't even know what that was all about, but like that's a general assessment. 10 to 20% support the regime. So like, obviously the other 80% doesn't. Yeah, that's probably one way to look at it. Or how about this? 10 to 20% of the population supports the regime. And then the others all can't agree on who they support. Right? Because again, we spoke about this on the last episode, which is you have so many different factions of people that there's no possible way that I can see them ever agreeing on who they support.
This is really making me feel bad about my numbers on the road.
It doesn't necessarily mean that 8 billion people.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean there are 8 billion people who don't like Dave Smith.
I used to own a couple. No, it's fine. I mean, I actually do like Dave Smith. Let me tell you a Dave Smith story. I actually have respect for Dave Smith, but I realized who Dave Smith is. And I would say this to his face or on camera. Dave Smith is a radical libertarian. Don't take my word for it. You've said this multiple times. Have you not, Dave Smith?
Said what? That I'm a radical libertarian? Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yes. Okay, perfect. So when you're something, when you're radical, what's another word
what I
for?
believe in? Well, what I believe
What's
in is
another word
true
for
Americanism.
radical? Extremist. Okay. This is why
these are
you
all
call
relative
America,
terms.
This is why you call. Sure. This is why you call the U.S. military the greatest terrorist organization on earth, right? Because you're a true American? Because you're a true patriot? Is that why, Dave? Because something tells me you have what is known as clickbait of the mouth. And you're using these instances, these wars, to garner attention for you. You have the American flag behind you, yet you have the hypocrisy of saying the United States military, United States is the greatest terror organization the world has ever seen. I mean, I don't understand what's going on here. This is why you're radical.
I didn't say
by
the
the way,
world
Well,
is ever
I tell you what. Hang on.
never
Just to
said
be
the
fair,
world's ever
fair to Dave, let's replay what he actually said on this show, which caused all the furore, led by Ben Shapiro. We'll play what he said, and I'll play what Shapiro said about it, and then we'll come back to Dave for a response.
The IDF is the worst terrorist organization in the region. Let's get real. The United States of America is arguably the worst terrorist organization in the world. If you want to look over the last 25 years, how many innocent civilians we've slaughtered.
It doesn't matter, it turns out, how many times you appear on Joe Rogan's show or how many times you hide behind your title of comedian who holds the Guinness Book of World Records for fewest jokes told, or how many times you spew puerile analogies that demonstrate nothing but unbelievable, willful ignorance of the nature of war. I'm sorry, but you hate the country if you say America is the worst terrorist organization in the world. You just do. Now, I know that Dave Smith is super duper excited that his name was mentioned here. And he's sitting there shouting at his TV screen in his basement, "Debate me, bro!" To which I answer, nah.
Yeah, because Ben Shapiro doesn't debate his peers. He only debates college kids. He punches down. That's who Ben Shapiro is.
I don't debate with trolls who claim that America is the biggest terrorist state in the world because that is idiotic.
Really? You don't debate with people who have a different opinion than you because that's idiotic. Here's a fun fact. Why don't you come on and justify or just explain, like face him face to face and obliterate him if he is so wrong in his opinions? And this has nothing to do with the whole like, oh, America's a terror thing. This is just Ben Shapiro in general, and it drives me up the freaking wall. Where this is what he does. He's like, oh, I'm not going to debate him. He's just that. I'm not going to platform that guy. I'm not going to give him a platform. It's like, you just kind of come across as a pussy, bro. And that's coming from like a lame brain guy like me. I'm just saying, like, you come across as somebody who can't debate, who can't stand up for what they believe in. I would happily talk to anybody who was radically different than I was on subjects. I am not afraid of it. And I actually don't think it's wrong to debate them. That was what Charlie Kirk believed in. You know, Ben, Charlie Kirk, you remember him? The guy you believe is your friend? The one that you like to put words in his mouth now? Yeah, that guy, he was the one who was all about talking to everybody who he didn't agree with. Anyway, this guy, he drives me mad. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's freaking eyebrows or what. It's just something about Ben Shapiro literally drives me nuts. And no, it's not because he's Jewish.
So, Dave, as you know, that all blew up. A lot of debate raged about it. Clarify what you meant.
For the record, Dave has like a smirk on his face, so he knows he fucking stepped in it by saying that. But let's see how he walks about it. I mean, that's a pretty crazy thing to say, but I think, to a degree, I think I knew what he kind of meant when he said it. It might have been a bit hyperbolic, but he, and that tends to happen a lot on these shows, especially on YouTube. You get a lot of hyperbolic, rhetoric, and you just have to learn to try to understand that.
Do you regret phrasing it the way you did? Just give us a bit more meat on the bone.
No, I don't regret phrasing it the way I did, and I'll be very clear about what I'm saying. I will point out that it's quite something for Ben Shapiro. Just since you played him, I got to respond to him first. That he goes, "Oh, I just won't debate with this guy because this is so beyond the pale." Ben Shapiro made his name debating 19-year-old communist Maoists who were confused about their gender. So somehow, Pierce, we're going to have to believe here that I'm so much less serious than the children who Ben Shapiro made a career debating. I loved your response to him where you pointed out some of the goofy segments that he does on his show. I mean, personally, I really stay away from that stuff. And, for Adam, I think to say it's clickbait.
Man, see, he said the same thing I did. What did I say just a second ago? Like, bro, you don't debate your peers. You punch down. He's just such a phony.
That I just want to get out in front of the camera. I think we're all equally in front of a camera right now, and it's kind of weird to accuse someone else. I very much believe the things I'm saying.
Dave,
now, to Adam's point,
Dave,
hold
don't
on,
run from the comment.
Because there's a bunch.
Don't run from your comment.
I'm trying to
address
get to
the
it, but there's a
comment,
lot
not Ben
here.
Shapiro, would you?
Good.
Yes, let's go. Wrap it up.
No, I'm going to make the points I want to make.
You called the United States military.
You're just slowing. Okay, so
you called the United States military the greatest terror organization in the world.
Adam,
defend.
Just let me answer. No problem. I'm going to go back to the order I was going to go in. To Adam's point, when Adam says I'm a radical libertarian and I say that this is true Americanism, I mean, look, my favorite founding father is Thomas Paine. Not everyone considers him a founding father. And maybe I love him so much because he never held a government position and didn't own slaves, which I thought was pretty cool. But Benjamin Franklin said he was the most consequentialist and the one person most responsible for the United States of America existing. His famous pamphlet that he wrote was called Common Sense. And I think on the first or second line of it, he says, government is at best a necessary evil. So at best, he's like, this is clearly on the anarchist to night watchman state spectrum was what true Americanism was when it started. Now, for me to say what I made the point, and I've made this point a million times on your show, Pierce, I was saying when people come on and say Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism, well, just like give me an objective definition of what terrorism means, and then let's apply that standard universally. And if you're going to sit here and say, look, America has given billions, tens of billions of dollars to the IDF in the last few years. We've also, by the way, given a lot of weapons and money here. Your first guest on this show there, the head of the Obama deep state, was using Al-Qaeda, bin Ladenite head choppers on the ground in Libya and in Syria. And yes, Adam, I would also consider it when our politicians lie us into wars that slaughter millions of innocent people and in many cases target those innocent people. I consider that terrorism as well. There's the answer, Adam. And if you want to keep doing this, buddy, you could tell me to check the scoreboard. I'll run circles around you on this, dude. Check the scoreboard. Most unpopular war in American history going in. Check the scoreboard. 13 dead Americans and 150 plus other wounded, thousands of innocents, including little schoolgirls in Iran, killed, dead innocent Israelis, hundreds of dead innocent people in Lebanon, millions of innocent people being displaced, all at the cost of tens of billions of dollars and destroying Trump's coalition. Check your scoreboard, Adam. How's it looking for you?
Okay.
Yeah, we're losing. Dude, I mean, that was textbook. You got to give credit where credit's due. He freaking just laid it out. And look, I get what he's saying. I would hate to call. Nobody wants to call themselves a a terrorist organization, but we get upset that Iran. You have people online right now who are upset because Iran is retaliating against Israel and U.S. assets in the region. And they're like, oh, can you believe this? Iran just blew up, they just shot rockets over at Israel. It's like, well, yeah, that's how this works. It's like if you swat a hornet's nest and then you get stung by a bunch of hornets, you can't be like, oh, man, can you believe those hornets stung me? It's like you swatted the hornet's nest, bro. That's how this works. I'm not sitting here rooting for Iran, but it's like it is weird to me that we get so outraged because they retaliate. But of course they retaliate. They're a country. They don't want to be bombed. They don't want to be attacked. I'm not saying I agree with them. But let's not play coy here. We have spent a lot of time and a lot of money over the last 30 years funding groups in the Middle East that would become terrorist organizations that were probably already terrorist organizations to begin with. Who do you think funded Al-Qaeda and trained them to fight Russia? We did. We get involved in things that the lines get very blurry with the things that we get involved with over there in the Middle East. And you could sit here and be like, Iran. And I'm going to talk about some of this stuff later on in another episode probably, but let's continue. I don't want to ramble. We're supposed to be listening to them and I'm cutting in too much. I'm sorry. Let's hear Adam's response. Adam, what's your point?
Okay, Dave. So, okay, it's not working well for you, Dave, because
Substantively
you're
respond
still
to any
saying
of that,
that
Adam.
United States. You're saying the United States is a terrorist organization. You've already lost the debate. You live in America, tough guy. You have the luxury of sitting in your little studio with your hooded sweater like you're 17 years old. The regime. You mean all American presidents?
I'm 17
Who's your favorite
years old?
president in the last 50 years?
Adam, I'm
Who's
17 years old.
Who's your favorite president in the last 50
I have
years?
a wife and children. Who depends on you, Adam? Your mom?
Okay. I also have
if you want to make it personal,
other. So you want to go personal?
You have a significant other.
We can go as
Anyway,
personal as we can go.
No, I'm trying not to.
We can go as personal as you want.
Respond to one thing.
I don't
Adam.
care, Dave.
Adam, some substance.
I don't care.
I know because you don't know
Dave,
anything.
you're a radical.
So move on. So
Okay.
stop picking a fight with me, dude. You don't
Dave.
know anything about anything. You're Pat's guy.
I know.
And I
Dave,
like
here's
you,
what I-
dude.
here's-
I like you.
here's
I
what
like
I
your
will tell
show.
you.
I respect Pat.
Dave, okay. Zip it. Here we go. I'll talk now for a second. I'm defending the military right now. You're basically saying that all our boys that go to the military are all terrorists. That's what you're saying.
No.
You're equating that the United States of America, the IDF, are the equivalent of ISIS and Al Qaeda. By the way, I also used to respect you until you went on a little podcast called Coleman Hughes. What happened on that podcast, Dave? This is the problem. I'll tell you
Why
a
don't
quick
you
story.
do it right
When I
now,
moved to-
Adam?
when
Why don't you do it?
I'll do it right now, Dave. I'll do it right now.
for
Because
it.
here's what Dave is. Here's Dave Smith. By the way, 1% of Americans vote for libertarians every year. So you're trying to basically say that you know more than the average American. 1% of Americans vote for your people, Dave. Why don't you run for something? Why don't you stand for something? You stand for nothing.
Okay, can I respond? Again, Pierce, this is the level of substance.
No. Here we go. I'm going to tell you a story, Dave, and then you can respond. Because this is where I lost respect for you as a debater. Because I was like, oh, this guy Dave, he actually knows some stuff. He's doing his thing. And then you showed up on Coleman Hughes' podcast. Pierce, do you know who Coleman Hughes is?
I do. He's been on the show.
I've been on the show with him.
Perfect. That's this guy right here, just in case, if the camera doesn't see.
But what is the point you're making?
I watched this podcast. The point is this. Dave gets out there and he tries to bully people and say that he's so smart. He reads a lot of books. Good for you, Dave. But what happens when you run into somebody who's way smarter and bullies the bully? I remember growing up in this town of Miami, so there was this kid that used to pick on all the kids that we went to school with. And one
it feels like Dave is filibustering right now.
day, some new kid showed up, and he goes, oh, yeah, let's go,
Not
buddy.
Dave, Adam,
let's
sorry.
do this. And the bully goes, oh, what do you mean? What do you want to do? And he goes, no, yeah, you want to fight everybody? You want to take everybody's lunch? Let's go. And the new kid beat the crap out of the bully. And here's what happened with Dave. He's out there just doing his little podcast thing, debating, like you said, Ben Shapiro, 19-year-olds. And then all of a sudden, this whole conversation about Wesley Clark, and I saw him on your podcast about a week ago, Pierce, and this memo, here you go, Dave. Remember this memo from Wesley Clark that you used to cite everything?
This is
that
adorable.
you used to cite, yeah.
For those of you listening, he raised a piece of paper that said some stuff that didn't make any sense.
It is adorable because your whole
when do I get to
foundation is
respond?
based on some memo.
Well, I'm not quite sure what,
memo.
Adam, I'm not quite sure what is the point you're making.
Yeah, exactly.
The point is this: Dave has zero credibility at this point. Dave has zero credibility.
Well, you don't
at this
really
point.
get to decide
and he
that.
ran
You know, the
into
people,
somebody,
the audience.
See, this is what we're dealing with. There's no substantive debate. All he's just, he has zero credibility. Why? Tell him why he has it. Dave actually is doing this the wrong way. All Dave has to do is sit back and go, why do I have zero credibility? Explain to me why I have zero credibility.
That completely bullied. What audience?
Okay.
The four people that show up to your comedy show at the
Yeah. Okay, Dave, you respond.
Okay.
So Adam's lost the debate because now Adam has resulted to insulting Dave. Oh, what people listen to you? The four people that come to your comedy show at the Ha Ha Club? Oh, okay. And you can't see this because you're listening to this podcast, but Adam has a very disgusted look on his face. Now, for all of you out there, take lesson from this. Let's have a little brief moment on debate. The moment you start to insult your opponent, you have lost the debate. It don't matter if you're right or wrong. It actually really doesn't matter if you were winning the debate all the way up to that point. If you start to insult the person across from you, you lose the debate. And even Dave has had a few moments there where he's starting to do it. He's starting to get personal or make cuts. But the thing is like, I don't know what that just was. In fact, you know what I mean? Like I listened to that and
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
No, I don't. Nobody does. So that was very weird. It was a weird rambling. Maybe that's why PBD always says to him, like, Adam, what's your point? But I thought PBD was always being hard on him, but maybe this is kind of how he is. I don't know. That's weird. But anyway, let's continue. That was a strange response to all that. He went nowhere with it.
Can I respond now? Because I listened while
the question I'd ask you, Dave. The question I'd ask you, Dave, is the way that you're.
Well, let me respond to some of that.
I will, yeah. But I just want to ask you, just on a general level,
how are you going to respond to what Coleman Hills did to you? There was like a body bag after that debate.
Let him respond.
Well, you ain't doing nothing, bro. You're sitting here talking about what another man did.
You've already been in a body bag, Dave. I'm here to clean up the scraps.
Okay, let me just ask Dave.
Doing a good job of that, brother.
Which is, as you know, the comment you made about America being a terrorist state and so on, that went pretty viral. Do you understand why a lot of people got very angry about the perceived equivalence between America and terror organizations like ISIS, like Al Qaeda, and so on?
Yeah, no, well, listen, I mean, there's no question that the head chopping...
I don't think he does, but go ahead.
Hey, Adam, I mean, just let me talk now. I understand all you can do here is interrupt and hold up props or something, but let me make a few good points.
I'm just, you said that America's a terrorist organization. You've already lost the debate. Go ahead.
No, I haven't actually, and that's not, you don't really get to decide in the middle of the debate whether I have. It's who moves people more than the other one is really, I guess, the metric. But
you're 1% libertarian. You're really moving people. You're really moving people.
I mean, Adam, I understand this will just be your tactic for the rest of it because you're out of any.
I'm not. I do lean libertarian, so maybe that's why it was easy for me to listen to him and kind of enjoy some of what the things he says. Again, I don't agree with everything Dave Smith says, but like, strong MAGA guy here voted for Trump 3 times. And I find myself seeing Dave's point a lot. So this whole comment about like, oh, you're just 1% of the whole country. It's like, that's a bad metric because we are a 2-party system. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you, and I'm sure everybody who listens has heard this. If you don't vote Democrat or Republican, you're wasting your vote. You've probably heard that. That's the narrative that we live in this country. Like if you don't vote, you get 2 parties, Democrat, Republican. You get a vote for a turd sandwich or a douche. That's your options. It's stupid. Now, I actually, believe it or not, I will vote libertarian in my local elections if there's a libertarian running. I have no problem with it. And I don't care if that's a waste of a vote because it's my vote. I'll do what I want. But the idea that because only 1% of people vote libertarian means they don't share their views. It's like, no, that's a horrible metric, and it's kind of a low IQ argument. And again, I like Adam, so this is not me trying to just like bully him, but that's not a very good argument to be made.
Just out of your depth, but here. Okay, yes, actually, I didn't vote for the Libertarian nominee.
Go ahead,
Donald Trump came to the Libertarian Party convention and tried to convince a lot of us to support him, and I'm one of the people who did, and now I'm one of the people who's criticizing this policy. Now, in terms of, obviously, Pierce, it's a provocative statement. I know that when I make it, and I'm not claiming that the American military men are the equivalent of ISIS or Al Qaeda. Obviously, they're much more barbaric. These head choppers, the one who Leon Panetta and Barack Obama all sold weapons to and partnered with, and the one who Donald Trump recognized as the president of Syria. I'm not saying that one isn't more barbaric than the other. I'm simply making the point, Pierce, that if you define terrorism as targeting civilians in order to affect a political change, then by that objective definition, the U.S. military and the IDF are more guilty of it than anyone else over the last 25 years. Their
argument is always that the U.S. military and the IDF do not deliberately target civilians.
Yes, Pierce, but again, Pierce, we've been through this.
I'm just saying, for the benefit of fairness,
that's not true.
This is their argument. Whereas the difference being that genuine terror groups like ISIS, like Al Qaeda, they deliberately and brazenly target civilians for political purposes.
Pierce, when you have roaming blackouts for 9 days in Cuba because we've embargoed the energy that can go there, I'm sorry, that is targeting the civilian population. When Hamas slow rolls the remains of dead Israeli prisoners, whatever, I don't know, I get in trouble for using the wrong word. The dead Israelis that they were holding captive, even after all the live ones are out, and the response from the Israeli government is we're going to cut the aid to the civilian population in half, that is targeting civilians. And when you drop bombs all over cities and you know that innocent civilians are going to be killed, that's targeting civilians. Now, as far as some of the other stuff here, look, in terms of the debate with Coleman, I encourage people to go watch that. It's only people who already disagreed with me going in who say I got body bagged there. The rest of the people tend to say it was a kind of a good, respectful back and forth, and both people had some moments. But for Adam to say I only debated children up until Coleman, I debated Dennis Prager, I debated Douglas Murray, I debated Josh Hammer at an Oxford-style debate at Princeton University and absolutely smoked him on the Oxford-style voting. I debated him again at Charlie Kirk's event. I've been coming on this show. How many debates have me and you done, Pierce? I've been willing to debate whoever wants to debate this subject for over 2 years now. And so to say that I'm just being Ben Shapiro and going around to college campuses and debating 19-year-old dudes in wigs claiming to be women, it's just not true, man. I debated Chris Cuomo right in front of you, Adam, the biggest host at CNN. So I just think this is ridiculous. Coleman made some, listen, I'm not going to say a negative thing about Coleman. He didn't attack me. He went at the issues, and I really appreciate and respect that. I've actually been trying to host him on my podcast. I hope he'll do it.
Yeah, so that is a good point. He does go on all of the major networks, and he has no problem talking to anybody. So, I mean, credit to him. It takes a lot of guts to do that. You put yourself out there. It could look wrong, could look stupid. And, yeah, here's the thing, guys. I'm a Marine, a U.S. Marine, 5 years. Serve my country, love this country more than any other country in the world. I still think the United States, despite all of its faults right now, is still one of the greatest countries to ever exist on this planet. It has given more people the opportunity to dig themselves up out of poverty and make the life that they want to make. It's given people the opportunity to live a life that they want to live. And I think that's just truly amazing. It's liberated so many people all throughout the world. It's been a beacon of hope for so many people all around the world. That's not me politically stumping or just trying to be like fluff. I generally believe that down to my heart. But let's not lie. And everybody knows this to be true. And I'm getting a little loud because we voted for it, everybody. For those of you who are in the MAGA movement, for those of you who voted for Trump, you voted against the evil, the corrupt. Remember the phrase "drain the swamp"? Did we forget that? Dave Smith could have been probably a little more nuanced with his talking points, but the problem with these debate segments is that they're so quick, and you got to hurry up and get your words in, that oftentimes it's very difficult to give a nuanced opinion on something. Sometimes you just have to hurry up and kind of abbreviate or just say something. And oftentimes it could come across like, oh, you think the soldiers are terrorists. It's like, no, he didn't say that. And the reality of it is that really bad people in our government who started these unnecessary wars in the Middle East, they did blow up they killed a lot of innocent people. And because of their negligence and their lack of foresight, more people would die because we destabilized that region. And so I don't know how you can't look at that as something that's really bad. I mean, you think about it. America went into Iraq, took out its leader, and destabilized that entire country. People were getting brutally murdered and butchered by basically ISIS, which is another terrorist organization. But that organization wasn't running afoot in Iraq prior to us showing up. And had we not shown up, they probably never would have, because Saddam kept that crap in check. I'm not saying Saddam's a great guy, but sometimes the grass ain't always greener on the other side. Sometimes you got to take your dictator and just be like, hey, it's not ideal, but it is what it is, because the alternative could be worse. We found that out with Iraq. So in a way, like Dave said, if the definition of terrorism is killing innocent people, then yeah. I mean, I hate to say that because it sounds horrible, But in a weird way, it's like, yeah, I get it. Oh, we're doing it in the name of freedom. Listen, that's not the case. That's never the case, because nobody ever ends up free in these countries that we liberate. They're always under some sort of quasi sort of parliament system, or they've got some other evil dictator that takes over, or some other terrorist organization that takes over. They never become free like we're free. They don't adopt our constitution.
Okay, Adam, your response.
Yeah, and why? And listen, I do respect the fact that Dave does show up.
He does.
I mean, that's like, okay, cool, you showed up. Respect to that. I will give Dave credit, but Dave, and this is why I'm going to keep going back to this, to pretend that it was an even match, an even debate, he put you in a box.
Why are we talking about another debate? Adam, why can't you stay on topic? You have not defended your side of anything. Weird. You just attacked him for doing poorly in some other debate. This is a weird response.
Body bag, and you're out here still doubling down on all your positions when he went methodically and surgically.
This is the saddest thing. I've never been in a debate where someone just fell back to someone else's debate. Boom, boom, boom. Name one of the booms. Make the point for yourself. Me and you are supposed to be debating here, brother.
The memo from
Say
Wesley
something.
Clark. The memo from Wesley Clark. Your whole
what's your
foundation.
point?
For your Israel, so listen up, little guy. So your whole foundation for Israel dragging America into war was that this memo from Wesley Clark showed up, and that's the reason that America got suckered into the Iraq war, because Israel convinced him to do it. And he went and surgically and methodically and very calmly was like, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about. Your entire foundation crumbled. And you're dipping,
so
you're doing your little
can
thing
I respond?
where you're drinking your
Can
nicotine.
I respond to this?
So, but the point is this: your Holland's
Man,
Opus,
you are
this
real-
3-hour debate with Coleman Hughes, it wasn't close, Dave. And that's fine. You want to sort of be a revisionist.
That's your opinion.
And say, you know what?
I'm not being revisionist.
We went point
That's
for point. No, Dave, that was any person with logic, because you didn't have a response.
Adam,
your only response was,
this is so
go read the
ridiculous,
book.
dude.
Adam, it is an unusual position to spend.
It's not ridiculous.
Adam, it's an unusual position that I've had you guys
because
on.
that was the
you guys
aha
on
moment
to
for
debate,
me,
and so far
where I
you
said this guy is actually a lightweight.
Adam,
he's actually a lightweight.
Adam,
Well, this is that moment for you, for a lot of people, Adam. So congratulations.
My point to you, Adam, would simply be it's an unusual debating strategy to spend 10 minutes of this debate talking about another debate that most viewers may not have seen.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's
I mean, there's other debates that we can bring up. The fact, Dave, when's the last time you were?
Why would you bring up any other debate? We're watching you guys debate. I was really hoping this was going to be something different, but this is kind of a nothing burger.
Go ahead. Okay, so this is what you're falling back to now. Yeah, right. No, you know the answer. You're not asking. I've answered it a million times, and you know the. I have not been to the Middle East. Go do your best Douglas Murray acting job. Adam, brother, I was prepared to come in here on friendly terms. So you are humiliating yourself right now, dude.
I'm really not.
Humiliating yourself right now.
You've been humiliating yourself for the past 2 years, basically saying that America is a terrorist organization, that the IDF is a terrorist organization, and you're whitewashing actual terrorism. What are your thoughts on Islamic terrorism coming into the West? What are your thoughts on the war in the West? What do you think of ISIS? What do you think of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Are you asking me questions?
Go ahead.
It's a huge
I'm asking you a
risk.
question.
And it's a huge risk, especially right now after we just murdered an Ayatollah and his whole family.
What's a huge risk?
Blowback terrorism is a huge problem, and having not secure borders is a nightmare of a policy.
I'm not talking about.
I'm very concerned about terrorism.
Blowback terrorism. Do you see what's going on in the West? Do you see what's going on where Piers Morgan lives in London? Do you see what's going on all over the world?
I've been an advocate of strict immigration controls for many years.
By the way,
you're just making stuff up because you have nothing, dude.
By the way,
you have nothing here, man.
You just said that America is a terrorist organization.
Adam, if you brought my country
into it. He's anti-American, and here I am as a proud American saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
You said that Dave couldn't talk about the Middle East because he hasn't been there much.
So Adam said that he was a liberal, like he was on the left before he voted for Trump. He's like, I use my common sense. I was like, yeah, but you still talk like them, bro. Like this is how debating most people on the left generally goes. It's usually very low substance. They generally do not attack you on your positions per se, or they don't challenge you in the sense that they present their own opinion to try to persuade you, which is kind of the sort of point of a debate. They just kind of attack you, like, oh, you hate America because you said this. You hate America, and that's what he's doing right now. And it's, whatever.
When was the last time you were in England?
I spent much time in England. My ex-wife was
Welsh. When was the last time?
She wasn't a sheep shagger.
When was the last time?
The last time I was in Europe, in England, in the Middle East. Where would you like me to go?
No, England.
The last time I was in England was about 8 years ago.
Right. So this idea, let me tell you.
The last time I was in Israel.
Let me tell you.
The last time I was in.
See, he got him. And, Adam was stalling because he knew. He's like, fuck. He knew it. He was like, ooh. Because I hit Dave Smith with you've never been to the Middle East. Well, you haven't been to the UK in 8 years. So how do you know what it's really like?
Israel.
This idea
was 3 years ago.
Adam,
there is a weird.
Now, for the record, before I'm gonna backtrack this just a bit because I'm interrupting a lot right now. But like for the record, I actually do think there is a problem in the UK, and I agree with Adam on that. I do think they're having issues with immigration. It's clear. You can see the news articles. I think Piers Morgan he tries to kind of dumb it down a bit. I think two things can be true. I think you can say like Piers Morgan goes, well, there's great food in England and it's really nice. So like you got all these restaurants and all these different cultures now. It's not just English. It's all these things. And I think that's great. Yeah, you could, but there is a danger to that when you start to lose your identity as a country, because then you change. There's no doubt about that. There's a risk to it. So there's I think two things can be true. Like you can have like cultural diversity and have good, there's some positives to that. You get all these different experiences, but there is a danger to when it gets a little it tends to start to consume the existing culture in place, because then that country can lose its identity. And that is exactly what's taking place in Europe right now, especially Europe as a whole. Maybe the UK is a little bit behind that, but listen, man, like a bunch of people marching in the streets in the UK protesting it, they ain't doing that for no reason. So I will give credit to Adam there, because there is a problem, but he just got caught. And that's the problem when you start to, say like, well, you don't know anything because you haven't been here, or been there, or done that. You set yourself up for that sort of same thing. That's why it's just better to be substantive, not just be like, well, you've never been to the Middle East, so what the hell you're talking about? Like, come on, man, really?
The last time I was in England was about 8 years ago.
Right. So this idea, let me tell you.
The last time I was in Israel.
Let me tell you.
The last time I was in Israel.
This idea
was 3 years ago.
Adam,
there is a weird
Pierce,
idea.
do we have to put this episode out? I like Adam.
There
We
is
don't
a
have to
weird
air this.
idea. There are many people.
Are you saying that not going to a country?
Adam, many people. Hang on. Many people on the conservative right in America sitting under the illusion that my country has been taken over by radical Muslims. Let me tell you, I have lived here on and off for the last 8 years, unlike you, and respectfully, we have not been taken over by radical Muslims. It just hasn't happened the way it's been sold by people like Tommy Robinson to Americans, and you're all lapping it up.
How would you define it then, Piers? I
think we have a Muslim population which is predominantly peaceful and inclusive and settled well. And we have some radical members of radical Muslims, as we have radical members of other religions in this country, and we have to be very wary about it.
What other members of radical religions?
Hang on. And we have had severe immigration control issues run by successive Conservative and Labour governments who frankly lost control of our border, both to illegal immigration, but also allowed way too many people in legally. And these are proper, legitimate things to be discussed. But framing it, as some people like to do, as my country's been overrun and overtaken by radical Muslims, is just a lie. It's just not true. So yes, there are things to be concerned about. And yes, I want to see everyone who comes here assimilate, and everyone who lives here assimilate into our culture. Of course I do. But this idea that we've been overrun and overtaken is nonsense.
Yeah. Piers, can I just make one
sensitive? Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation that most of us are making is like, it's beginning to be taken over. Like it hasn't been taken over, but like it's a process. UK is a very small country, so they just got to be very careful.
Portion that everything that everybody is saying about Sharia law being imposed in London and Birmingham.
It hasn't been
you're
imposed
saying that it's overblown?
It hasn't been imposed here.
Okay, anyway.
There are
you're saying that it's over.
There are
Dave,
a number of unofficial Sharia
guy.
courts operating. They have no legal basis or standing in the UK whatsoever. There is no Sharia law being operated legally in this country. End. It doesn't happen.
Thank you, Piers. Thank you for enlightening me. So you're saying it's all overblown, that
Why don't you come over,
come
over with the whole PBD team and let me take you on a guided tour of the UK, and trust me, you'll be fine.
I'm sure you're going to all the nicest places and definitely...
Real quick, I actually have a friend whose wife is British. They go to England all the time. I'm going to ask him when I see him. I think I've asked him before. He said it's not great. He said it's changing a lot. He said it's not like what it used to be. I do remember him telling me that. And, and again, like, that's subjective because you don't really know what he means by that, because everybody's like, people think everything changes, but you know what I mean? Like, is that because there is like this sort of Islamic terrorist regime moving in? I don't know, but I'm going to bring it up to him when I see him tomorrow.
One of the most dangerous places, Piers. I'm sure you're not going to Birmingham or Brick Lane or anything like that.
I love Brick Lane, best curries in England. I love Birmingham, fantastic place.
Incredible Bangladeshi curry.
I'll take you there.
Back to my central thesis here is that Dave thinks that the United States military and the IDF are the equivalent of the Ayatollah and the Hezbollahs and the Hamas.
You've made that point. Dave, final point here.
I know.
Final point
listen,
today.
I mean, I think we all kind of agree that like open borders and lack of immigration restrictions are not very sound policy, and that those ought to not be in place. But I do just want to say to the, I guess, almost brushed up against.
Isn't that what libertarians believe in, though? Don't libertarians believe in open borders, Dave?
Let him finish.
Anyway, let me just finish one point, Adam. Since you,
no, they don't.
You have nothing to say. Just let me finish the point. Anyway, no, libertarians don't believe in that. I've already said what I've had to say. Don't.
You've been in a body bag for about a year
now. Then let me finish. Yeah, great. Okay, I've been in a body bag. Anyway, let's see what the reaction to this one is. Let's see what the reaction to this debate is. Okay, we'll take a look at that when it comes out.
Sure.
Anyway, but the idea that
we can gladly
argument,
do that.
Great.
You're defending terrorism, and you think that the United States is a terrorist organization.
All right.
Let's see what rational MAGA people think. Go ahead, Dave.
Let's see. Okay. Anyway, the idea that you're making the point that the General Wesley Clark thing has been torn apart, and that was my entire case for Israel trying to push America into these wars is absolutely ridiculous. There's much more to it than that, and that point hasn't been torn apart. Pierce, is anyone going to seriously argue that Israel trying to push us into this war with Iran isn't a factor? As Benjamin Netanyahu, the longest-serving prime minister in Israeli history, brags about how this is the culmination of his entire life's work.
Not just that.
He's been advocating this for my entire life.
Well, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, said it very clearly that America preemptively got involved in the strikes because Israel were going to attack Iran, and so America thought there would be revenge attacks against American interests and got in first.
And Netanyahu's been coming here every other week to try to lobby Trump into this war.
Guys,
so you guys are saying that
Trump, here. See, this is the conversation we should have been talking about. It's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point, and I believe the segment's about to end, and that's just unfortunate. Like, this is the thing. Like, we could have been having this debate, but instead, Adam just wanted a name call and say, "Oh, we were putting a body bag." Like, dude, what the fuck is that?
You guys are saying that Trump is that
Adam, I have to bring this to an end.
Of a buffoon that he just gets dragged into wars.
Please
nice
come,
Adam,
come back again another time. I've loved having you on. Dave, always good to see you. I've sadly got to leave you there, but I appreciate it both very much. Thank you.
Enjoy that body bag, Adam. Enjoy that body bag. Look out for the comment section.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Allah Akbar.
Dude. What the... What did we all just listen to? Oh my gosh. Do you remember at the beginning of the show how I said that, there's a good and bad to YouTube? Like, you get a lot of people who are just really well spoken. They bring some substance to it, but then there is also the negative. There are a lot of people that don't. There is some bad there. This was the bad. We saw the bad, guys. We witnessed it. I'm looking at Piers Morgan's face right now and pause. He knows it. That was a joke. That was stupid. That did nothing. If let's just go look at the comment section. 17,000 comments. First comment here. Never seen someone tank a debate faster than Adam. Yeah, that was horrible. That wasn't a debate. That was a guy that was completely unprepared to defend his positions. Brought nothing. There's the old we're all dumber for have listening to that from Billy Madison. Like, that's kind of how I feel. This other comment, Adam dressed himself for his own funeral. Adam thought he was going against Vinny on the PBD podcast. Yeah, no kidding. Vinny lights him up all the time, so it doesn't even matter. Who stopped watching PBD live podcast because of Adam? How Adam has survived online this long is actually a comedic miracle. So here's the thing about Adam. Adam actually has really good points from time to time. I think the problem for Adam is he's not good live. And what I mean by that is, like, there are times where I'll do shows where I pre-write my script. There is that time. Like, I'll get in there, I'll write down all my thoughts, I kind of write down what I want to say, almost like a prompter. And I've done that from time to time. Like, right now I'm ad-libbing. I'm just ripping, right? Whatever comes to my mind. And most of the time that's how I do a show. Like, I don't generally pre-write what I want to write, what I want to say. But if I think it's like super important that I get it right, that I really convey my thoughts properly and I don't miss anything, I will go in and I will type up a script. I do that from time to time, especially with the old apologetic stuff. I would do that. And I think Adam is better in that regard. Like, if Adam had to write a thesis, you know what I mean? Like, if he had to sit down and like write out his opinions and why he thinks Dave Smith is wrong about his opinions, he probably would do better than he just did on this video. It's you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Adam's stupid. I just think there's some people who can't think on the fly, right? You start to get kind of overwhelmed and you kind of go into this fight or flight mode where the only thing you can really do is the only thing you can do is attack the guy because you're not thinking clearly. You're not able to think fast enough. And there is something, I'm sure, man, like, I've never been on one of those shows, but I'm sure there's a little nerves, right? You're on that show, you're in front of, probably millions of people. The last thing you want to do is say the wrong thing. But he completely butchered this. Let's keep going. Let's see what those people got. That who depends on you, your ma line was brutal. You can see Adam's soul leave his body. Yes, that was a great one. Dave Smith landed it. Like, who do you depend on? I have a wife and children. Like, and that right there is, that's slam dunk. Boom. I've always said that the people with skin in the game are the people that should have the biggest voice. And when you have a wife and kids, especially when you have children, that's the future. So you have a vested interest to make sure whatever decisions are being made in your home and in your community and by your federal government, those decisions are the right ones. Because it's very likely whatever happens, they're the ones who are going to suffer for it. Yo, Adam, APAC called. They want their money back. That's hilarious. Adam keeps reading notes from someone holding up flashcards for him it looks like. No, he's trying to think. That's the problem. When you see him look away and he's looking up, he's trying to think about what he wants to say, and he's not able to do it. Takes practice, man. I probably wouldn't have done very well there either. You know what I mean? I've not been in that situation. It takes practice being in front of those cameras and among knowing that you're in front of that large of an audience. I see why Adam doesn't do debates. Yep, 100%. Adam he does not need to do another debate again. I suspect that PBD will have to tell him, like, straight up, like, bro, you didn't do very good there. Adam doesn't even know what he's trying to say. Yeah, I've never seen this level of embarrassment in a debate. I've never felt secondhand embarrassment like watching Adam. Yeah, it's not. He's getting ratioed in this. I'm looking for anything. PBD just sent a text Adam. Let's talk. Yeah, no kidding. There's absolutely. I'm going through these comments and I don't see anything in favor of Adam right now. What a bomb. Glad to see Adam's first and last time on Piers. Probably will be, to be honest. I don't think Adam's going to want to do that again. I think he's going to be very humiliated by this. Although maybe not. His ego's huge. It's probably one of the reasons why he thought he could come out here and do this. This guy said something very interesting. Adam is the reason I stopped watching PBD. common sense and reason is the reason why I started watching Dave Smith and agreeing with why it's bad to end the lives of innocent people with endless, pointless foreign wars. I don't vote for more wars, but the opposite. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's interesting because as soon as this war kicked off and I was like, man, I've got opinions and I was against it. I was like, I'm going to go listen to the PBD podcast because I know someone on there, especially I knew Adam was going to be for this war because it benefits Israel and Adam is all about whatever's good for Israel, which is so weird to me because it's like, he's like, I'm Jewish. It's like, do you practice? Are you really a Jew? Are you really Jewish? Like, are you practicing the Sabbath on Friday? No, you're at the nightclub, bro. Like, that's the thing about the Jewish religion. And I'm not trying to be critical. Maybe I'm out of line on this, but like, it's kind of like Catholics. It's like you meet a Catholic, but he's out doing drugs and, getting into mischief and doing things he shouldn't do. And then he's going and repenting for it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Christians are high and mighty. Like, we're better than everybody because we don't do anything wrong. Like, we do stuff wrong. But like, there's a lot of this whole, it's kind of weird. I don't know. There's a sort of shame in the Christian community where it's like, you wouldn't tout that you're a Christian and then like go out and blatantly sin in front of everybody. You would at least try to like give it a few days before you blatantly sinned in front of people. So it's not so obvious. You're not over like, yeah, I believe in Christ. I'm a follower. I'm a Christian. And you're over here like going to the strip club. You know what I mean? Or like, committing crime or something. You know what I mean? Like, you try to not do that. That's the whole point of it. You try to be good. Obviously, we're all sinners no matter what. We're going to sin. We're going to continue to sin because we fall short of the glory of God. But there is this sort of weird, like, they get away with whatever they want. And they're like, yeah, I'm Jewish, but I'm not a practicing Jew. So it's like, then you're not really Jewish. Well, no, it's an ethnicity. Oh, it's an ethnicity now. Well, that changes everything. Right. And I am going to talk about some of this. I'm going to have a whole podcast on it, I think, because we've got to break this down. It's such a nuanced conversation. Who does Israel belong to? And I think Tucker Carlson gets a lot of grief for it. Because Tucker asks questions that nobody else wants to ask because they don't understand why they're being asked. But here we are. So yeah, all in all, that was, that was ugly. I'm almost sorry that we did this show, but I'm going to stick with it. We're going to post this thing up and ooh, buddy. Like him or hate him, man, Dave Smith, he's a great debater. He's very sharp. He lands his punches very well. He gets his points in. You could probably break that down and be like, yeah, he does really well. He just kind of lands it. He's got a good cadence. And that's not easy for people who don't debate. And Dave Smith is definitely somebody who debates. Like he said, he's been to Oxford, he's done all that stuff. And when you do that, you're seasoned. I feel like that was kind of like I feel like Adam was kind of going up against, a young Mike Tyson in that moment, and he's just kind of outmatched and he wasn't ready for it. But I've listened and, that's the thing this guy was saying about the PBD thing. I went over and I listened to the PBD podcast. I went on a tangent. I'm sorry. I did. I chased a rabbit and I didn't come back, but I just did. Thankfully, thanks. My brain kicked in there. Yeah, I knew when I was going to listen to the PBD podcast that I was going to hear differencing of opinions, and Adam definitely didn't let down. He was the first. What shocked me was hearing the opinions of PBD himself and Vinny. And then what was interesting is seeing Vinny kind of change or pivot a little bit on his positions. So, it's a good show to watch. I'm not going to stop watching it because of Adam. I do think when Adam talks, it's a bit cringeworthy. You never know what he's going to say. You never know if he's going to make a point. You never know if he's going to ramble. I think it's a little embarrassing when PBD says, Adam, what's your point? I get why he does it, but it's kind of a cringeworthy thing when you hear it. Sometimes it's funny. You're like, ha ha ha. But at the same time, you're just kind of like, damn, dude, like in front of everybody like that, like pull this guy aside off the mic and say, look, you gotta bring the horse home, right? You got to bring this thing around. You can't keep doing this. So, but on that note, folks, I don't know if it's even right to let you listen to all that, but here we are. That's what we're dealing with. Hey, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's damn right ugly. That was ugly. But thank you for listening to the show, everybody. We'll be back soon. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up. What do you think about that? Was it even a debate? And we'll be back on the show very soon. Like it, subscribe, tell a friend. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.